So I've actually been invited to come to speak to a group of young leaders by Die Zeitstiftung, as I once was myself a young leader of the Atlantikbrücke. And I was actually invited to look and, more importantly, talk about what's going on with globalization, particularly with illicit networks and cybersecurity. And so today I'm here in Berlin to speak a little bit about the financial aspects of illicit networks. If you take a look at actually how money moves around the world, most of the money is actually moved through non-government circuits in terms of banks. And if you think about whether you're an organization for the good, like a USAID, or an organization for the bad, like Al-Qaeda, you actually have to figure out how to get money from point A to point B. And if we think about money as the oxygen for any activity, in order to do basically build your product or deliver your service, you're actually very reliant on the international banking system. And what we've actually seen is actually by bringing practitioners from the outside who know the latest and greatest ways to actually move money, you'll actually also understand how illicit actors, whether they be terrorist groups or organized crime groups, are actually moving money. And what's interesting to see is that we've seen in the last 10 years, because of globalization and increasing interconnectedness of all of our markets, is that technology is moving at such a fast pace that it's hard for regulators and governments to keep abreast of all of these new techniques of moving money. But we've also seen that whether it's the Russian mafia or Mexican drug cartels, they're very good at keeping up with the latest and greatest and abusing that technology to promote their agendas. It actually, overall, it benefits the efficiencies of markets. So whether we're thinking about how day trading works around the world, and we've actually seen perhaps the downside of that since the global financial crisis in 2008, because all the markets are open 24 hours a day, where we're actually watching what's trading in Tokyo ahead of what's basically trading in Frankfurt and then subsequently in New York. And these have increased efficiencies in the way that we all do business, whether it's thinking about the global supply chain or, more importantly, your own personal investment accounts. But we've also seen that with these new technologies, it's also a way that makes international criminal groups much more efficient and effective as well, because in the past they were operating in local areas of influence, and now that influence has actually gone global for the bad, as unfortunately for those of us who are trying to promote the good. We're actually pretty proud about the financial front of what we termed in the past the global war on terror, because what we've actually seen is that we've degraded Al-Qaeda's ability to mount and, more importantly, finance large-scale operations similar to that of magnitude to September 11th. We've actually seen through basically declared intelligence reports that many groups, terrorist groups, have been complaining about their inability to secure funding. And that's a good thing. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of hard work, both in the private sector as well as in government sectors, making it harder for terrorists to move money and to raise money in order to mount these very deadly operations.